The avalanche of sexual harassment allegations against prominent men is dominating the headlines, and lately it feels like every day brings a new set of claims. But as the media tries to keep up, it may also be getting ahead of itself. Adam has more.
In the 6 weeks since the New York Times and New Yorker first reported alleged sexual misconduct by producer Harvey Weinstein, it's become clear that those stories sparked a movement.
Moore, of course, has denied all of these allegations.
This was before Senator Al Franken was a member of the United States Senate.
And for the most part, the press has resisted rushing to judgment, referring to allegations and claims when news stories break.
MSNBC suspended one of its top contributors, Mark Halperin, the co-author of Game Change, over accusations first reported by CNN.
But sometimes the press goes further. The lead of the Washington Post's Halperin scoop described one accuser's claims as if the reporter had been there. Halperin asked her to come to his office. Close the door, he said. He motioned to his lap. Meanwhile, Halperin's partial denial was buried in paragraph 10. Or take Representative Jackie Spears' claims about widespread sexual harassment in Congress.
And it's time to throw back the curtain on the repulsive behavior that until now has thrived in the dark without consequences.
Spears' allegations are big news, but CBS News implied they'd already been confirmed, saying Spears revealed 2 sitting congressmen have harassed staffers and noted that one's a Democrat and one's a Republican. Like a lot of other allegations, that could turn out to be true.
Louis C.K. now admits to the sexual misconduct allegations against him.
But until those accused confess or the press can prove their guilt, it's worth noting that allegations are exactly that.
And, Adam, people are trying to make this a partisan thing. It's not. It's not about sometimes saying that it's a Republican that we know is guilty of, but I think you're right that we've crossed a line here where we're not parsing the language anymore. And now there's a presumption that basically everybody's telling the truth.
I actually think, based on the research that I've done, that most outlets are using the right terms, noting that these things are not necessarily verified yet. But every now and then you'll see people, I think, get a little bit ahead of where they should be. And it can be tough. I mean, Mark Halperin, that Post article was so damning.
Yeah.
In a way, I can't fault the reporter for writing what was a very compelling lead. It really took you into the story. But it also, I think, predisposed you to assume that Halperin was guilty. Now, of course, Halperin has come out and basically acknowledged that he did all the things he was accused of. But I am concerned that at some point...
Except for that lap incident. He denies that one.
See, I'm not entirely clear he's denied that. But I think the danger, of course, is that one set of allegations comes out that turns out not to be true, and the press goes too far in suggesting that they are.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, we're going to find out that one of these sets of allegations turns out not to be true. I mean, it's inevitable as this story keeps accelerating. But so far, I agree with Adam. I think that the media has been fairly responsible, trying to treat these things in context and as allegations. You mentioned that it's not a partisan thing. So many people want to make this so. And what astonished me this week was that after Al Franken acknowledged what he did and issued a fulsome apology, there were still Franken fans out there trying to cast aspersions on the woman who he sexually harassed. I said, look at Franken's own statement. I mean, people are acknowledging this.
I think what's interesting is that when all of these stories began breaking with Weinstein, for example, we've all heard about the hesitation, certainly of NBC wanting to go with the story and how it rolled out. And I think initially everyone was very cautious. And when the next one came up, you were even more careful about it. When it becomes the kind of wake up in the morning and everything is out there, that natural guard, that shield that we all have in these kinds of things, there is this somewhat, this assumption like, wow, there's a wave here. They have to be telling the truth. You still use the language that you need to use, allegations or those kinds of things, allegedly, whatever it might be. But there is a comfort leveling knowing that you're probably not going wrong by reporting this story. And I think everyone can sort of fall into that level of comfort, and that's when you do get into trouble, right? Because now someone just makes something up, not even one wrong allegation within sort of a general, troublemaker who has been doing some things, but someone who is completely innocent gets drawn into this for whatever reason, and now you report it because you've relaxed your guard, and I think that's the danger.
Well, I think there's two things. First of all, we're playing a little bit of catch-up because just, 10 years, I don't even know 10 years, 5 years ago, some women would come forward and it was like, really? I don't know about that. And, she says, but kind of that kind of tone. And so it was very, to use the language, it was very unsafe for women to come forward. So there's that piece. And I think some outlets are feeling like, okay, well, this time we're not going to get caught doing that. We're going to make sure that we, at least give the space for these women to be correct. I think the second thing is that in some of the newer stories coming out, people are not pausing to give the exact way that the reporters got the information and corroborated. It still doesn't make it yet true all the way, but it allows you as the reader to see how they came to support the way the woman is telling the story. So I'll go back to the young woman who's 14 years old in the Roy Moore case. They made sure she was in the courthouse. They checked with the mother. They, went around, and then eventually we now know that the malls have said, we told him he couldn't come here. So they had all of this corroborating evidence. It's not a trial, so he's not been, he's not had a chance to make his case in that way, that legal way. But at least you can see this is what reporters do to get to this point. So we're not just somebody walks in and said, I sat on his lap and that was it. There was some other work involved.
That was a great, well-sourced story, that one.
Exactly. So I think that we, as it goes on and it's going to go on, we have to be careful about saying how we got to this point so that this is believable. And we're going to print whatever the accused says, but you decide then if you think that his denial is all right.
One thing that seems odd to me is I have not seen, it's possible that I've missed it, but the various organizations that tend to talk about rules of the road for journalists, Columbia Journalism Review, Pointer, On the Media, I haven't seen anyone yet, even though we've been doing this for a few weeks now, come out with a here's what you want to do when you're covering sexual harassment, and here's what you don't want to do. Maybe we're getting into it here, but I haven't seen that roadmap laid out yet, and I think it would be beneficial.
I think early on Pointer did say something, but I'm not certain since then.
Cue the roundtables.
Yeah.
Cue the town hall.
Yeah.